This is the Well Body Podcast with your host, Renee, the place where everyday women learn how to stop running on empty, reset their energy, nourish their bodies, and feel strong again. Let's get into it. If you've ever been diagnosed with PCOS or know someone who has, you may have recently seen conversations online about changing the name from Polycystic Ovary Syndrome to PMOS. And if you're thinking, hang on, what is PMOS? You're not alone. Today we're diving into why experts are proposing the name change, what PMOS actually means, why many women with PCOS don't even have cysts, the role of insulin resistance, how nutrition and strength training can help support symptoms, and what this means for women moving forward. Because understanding your condition is the first step towards managing it. So let's get into the episode. So why is PCOS potentially a misleading name? One of the biggest issues with the name Polycystic Ovary Syndrome is that it is actually describing one possible feature of the condition, not necessarily the cause. So many women diagnosed with PCOS actually don't have ovarian cysts, don't experience infertility, and may present with completely different symptoms. The name has caused confusion for decades. Women often hear cysts on your ovaries and assume that must be the problem. But for many women, the underlying drivers are actually metabolic and hormonal. So what does PMOS stand for? It stands for metabolic reproductive syndrome, depending on the terminology being adopted by different expert groups, okay? The idea behind the new name is to better reflect what is actually happening in the body. Rather than focusing solely on the ovaries, PMOS recognizes that the condition often involves insulin resistance, metabolic dysfunction, hormonal disruption, and reproductive symptoms. And this gives a much more complete picture. So, why is insulin resistance such a big deal? One of the biggest discoveries in PCOS research is the role of insulin. Many women with PCOS have some degree of insulin resistance. And when insulin levels remain elevated, the ovaries can be stimulated to produce more androgens. Now, this can contribute to irregular periods, acne, facial hair growth, difficulty ovulating, weight gain around the abdomen, and this is why improving insulin sensitivity is often one of the most effective strategies for managing your symptoms. Now, let's bring strength training into the chat because this is where I get excited. Because muscle is one of the most powerful tools we have for improving insulin sensitivity. Every time you strength train, your muscles become better at taking up glucose, storing glycogen, and responding to insulin. So let's use the croissant example that I often use. If you're someone who's under-muscled, you don't strength train, and you have PMOS, you might eat a croissant, and after eating that croissant, you feel as though you've gained 15 kilos in that hour, your energy crashes, and you just feel as though you need a nap. Versus someone who has got muscle on their body, has got good blood sugar levels, and they're able to eat that croissant, and they feel fine. Why? Because muscle acts as a sink for the glucose from that carbohydrate food. Okay? So when we have more muscle from strength training, we create a healthier metabolic environment, which is why strength training should be viewed as healthcare for women with PMOS or PCOS. Not punishment, not calorie burning, not to lose weight, but health care. It should be something that GPs are starting to say to women, I need you to build some muscle to help you with your insulin resistance, which is probably the massive contributing factor to your PMOS. So if you can start a strength training routine with a personal trainer to get you started so that you're doing it correctly, this is going to be a great stepping stone for you to manage your symptoms and feel so much better. So I'm on a mission to make that happen. When someone comes to me with anything, and let's say they think that they're just coming to me to talk about the food they need to eat because they may have been told by their GP that they need to improve their diet, one of apart from the diet, the next thing I'm saying to them is we need to get you more muscled. We need to build muscle on your bones and on your body because this is going to help you massively. We want that muscle in our body so that it helps our body to process glycogen, glucose, and respond to insulin far more effectively. Okay? So I've just thrown all these words at you, like insulin resistance and glucose. Let's actually break down what they are so you have a better understanding as to what I'm talking about. So glucose is your body's preferred source of energy. Whenever you eat foods containing carbohydrates, such as fruit, oats, rice, potatoes, bread, legumes, dairy even, your digestive system breaks down those foods into smaller molecules, one of which is glucose. Glucose then enters your bloodstream, and this is why people often refer to blood sugar, because blood sugar is simply the amount of glucose circulating in your blood. Now, glucose is not bad. In fact, every cell in your body relies on glucose to produce energy. Your brain especially loves glucose. The goal is not to avoid glucose, what some people say. The goal is to use it effectively. Okay? We want to be able to use the glucose from the foods that we eat effectively. Now, what is insulin? So I want you to think of insulin as the key that unlocks the door to your cells. When glucose enters your bloodstream after a meal, your pancreas releases insulin. Now, insulin's job is to tell your cells, hey, we've got fuel available, open up and let us in. So insulin helps to move glucose from the bloodstream into muscle cells, liver cells, and fat cells, where it can be either used or stored. Now, without insulin, glucose would simply remain floating around in the bloodstream, which would be a problem, okay? Now, why does muscle matter? This is where things get really interesting. As I said, muscle tissues act like giant sponges for glucose. The more muscle you have, the more places your body has available to store and use glucose, which is why when I used my croissant example, someone with more muscle is going to be able to use the glucose from that croissant versus someone who doesn't have as much muscle. So when you have more muscle on your body, you've got more sponge for that glucose. When you strength train, your muscles use glucose for fuel, okay? Muscles become more sensitive to insulin, and muscles store more glycogen. Blood sugar regulation then improves. So this is one of the reasons why strength training is so powerful for women with PCOS and PMOS. It's not just about burning calories, as I always say. It's about improving how your body actually handles the energy. Now, what is glycogen? If glucose is the fuel, glycogen is the storage from that fuel. Think of glycogen like a rechargeable battery. When you eat carbohydrates, your body stores some of that glucose as glycogen. Most glycogen is stored in muscles and liver. Now, the liver stores glycogen so it can help maintain stable blood sugar between meals. Muscles store glycogen so they have fuel available for exercise. And when you go for a run, or when you lift weights, or you hike, or you do a workout, your body actually taps into glycogen stores to provide energy. So why does the strength training improve insulin sensitivity? So imagine your muscles are like a garage. If the garage is empty, there is plenty of room for cars. If the garage is already packed, it becomes harder to fit more cars inside. Now, glucose is the car. Your muscles are the garage. Exercise empties the garage. Strength training uses glycogen, and then this creates space for more glucose to be stored later. As a result, your body doesn't need to produce as much insulin to do the same job. This is what we call improved insulin sensitivity, right? Now, what is insulin resistance? Insulin resistance occurs when the body's cells stop responding effectively to insulin. The pancreas then has to produce more and more insulin to achieve the same result. So imagine knocking on a door. At first, 1 knock works, then you need 5 knocks, then you need 10 knocks, then you need 20 knocks. That's essentially what's happening. The message is getting through less effectively because maybe the person isn't home. The body compensates by producing more insulin, and over time, chronically elevated insulin can actually influence fat storage, hunger signals, energy levels, inflammation, and ovarian hormone production. So I've used a lot of examples here, but hopefully that really helps you to understand what all these words are and what's actually happening in the body on a deeper level. So why does all of this matter for PMOS? So many women who have PMOS to some degree are insulin resistance. Now, when insulin remains elevated, it can stimulate the ovaries to produce more androgens, such as testosterone, okay? This can contribute to irregular periods, missing periods, acne, facial hair, and difficulty ovulating. And this is why improving your insulin sensitivity is often one of the most effective strategies for managing your symptoms. So to sum that all up, what are some of the ways that we can improve our insulin sensitivity? Number one is to build muscle, as I keep harping on about, because the more muscle you have, the more glucose your body can store and use. Muscle is one of the most effective tools for improving metabolic health. Number two is to move daily. Walking after meals helps your muscles to absorb the glucose. Even a 10-minute walk can have a meaningful effect on helping your body to use that glucose. Number three is eating protein and fiber. Protein and fiber help to slow down digestion. They support more stable blood sugar responses. And this doesn't mean never eating carbohydrates. It just means building meals that are balanced. All right? If you want to be able to eat that croissant, let's have a boiled egg and some broccoli too. We don't have to eat it all combined, but that's going to help our body to better absorb. Okay? And then four is sleep. So poor sleep can reduce insulin sensitivity surprisingly quickly. And one of the most underrated hormone supportive tools is just simply getting enough sleep. So we've done a deep dive into what all of those things actually mean and why it's so important to be building muscle, eating enough protein and fiber to help support the insulin sensitivity that does occur when you are dealing with PMOS. So we need to then move into our nutrition, because many women with PCOS or PMOS have actually spent years dieting and never seeing results, because the evidence increasingly shows that extreme restriction isn't actually the answer. Instead, we want to focus on just getting adequate protein every day. We want to be eating fiber-rich foods. We want to be improving our plant diversity. We need to be balancing our blood sugar. We need to be eating enough healthy fats. And we need to have consistent meal patterns. So let's say having 3 meals a day. The goal is to improve your long-term metabolic health, and we do that through having good nutrition, balanced nutrition. And if you're unsure on how to build a balanced plate, check out the blog post on my website, and I'll link this in the show notes below, because it'll give you some examples on how you can build a balanced plate using the Beyond the Body method, and this will massively help you if you are currently living with PMOS. We then need to look at our gut health, which is linked to a lot of things when it comes to our health, but our gut health is improved through diet. We need to make sure that we are improving our gut microbiome diversity, because emerging research is also exploring the links between gut health and PMOS, and not having enough diversity in the gut, and inflammation and insulin sensitivity and hormone metabolism being massively affected by not having enough diversity in the gut microbiome, from not having enough plant-based foods, not having enough fiber in the diet. So while we still have a lot to learn, supporting your gut appears beneficial for overall metabolic health based on all the research we have. And this is I believe this wholeheartedly too, because it's worked for myself, it's worked for my clients. When my clients start eating more plants, and myself included in this, when I first started my journey, oh my God, did my energy improve? Did my bloating disappear? Did my tummy aches go away? Did my periods just start feeling amazing? So all of this can be improved when you start to improve your gut health. Now, when we improve our gut health, we need to eat more plants, as I said. We need to eat more legumes. We need to eat more plant-based proteins. We need to include more nuts and seeds in our diets. We also need to start incorporating a little bit of fermented foods as well, and prioritizing more whole foods, because these are the foundations of good gut health. So, if you're someone who has been diagnosed with PCOS or PMOS, I just really want you to remember that you are not broken. Your body is communicating with you. The condition is complex, but there is so much within your control to help you manage your symptoms. And those are building muscle, improving your metabolic health, supporting your gut, sleeping well, managing your stress, getting enough time to yourself if you can, and eating enough protein. Now, these things may not be flashy. They may not be a flash supplement. They may not be the latest trendy thing out there on the market, but they are powerful, and they are probably the things that are going to generate you far more results than just taking a supplement ever would. Supplements are called supplements for a reason. They are a supplement to your lifestyle. They are a supplement to your diet, but they are not something that you should be reaching for first and just taking them and hope for the best. What we actually need to do is get the foundations in place first and get the foundations in the best possible place we can. Whether it's called PCOS or PMOS, the goal remains the same, helping women understand their bodies and giving them the tools to support their health. The name change isn't about creating confusion, it's about creating clarity, because when we understand that this condition involves far more than just the ovaries, we can start having better conversations and creating better outcomes for women. If you're someone who is currently dealing with PMOS, I have a program that can help you. This is the Gut Reset Program. It is a 2-week program, and it is the best place to start improving your gut health and understanding a little bit more in depth as to what you need to do for the rest of your life to improve your gut health. And it doesn't include you spending a whole lot of money on supplements or cutting out everything in your life. It is just going to teach you the foundations on building a better gut so that you can start feeling your best. I always recommend that people start with the 2-week program first before diving deeper into other programs so that you can get a little bit of a foundational understanding as to what it is you need to do to start making these improvements. I help you with your nutrition, I help you with your strength training, and I'm also there behind the scenes in that messenger chat to help you along the way if you have any questions or need words of encouragement and accountability. This program is a great place for you to start, and if you'd like to know more, click the link in the show notes below on how you can get started. If this episode resonated with you and it has helped you understand the clarity of what PMOS actually is and what's going on in the body, then please give this show a 5-star review. Please send this episode to someone who could really do with listening to it. Or if you enjoyed it yourself and it has helped you gain some clarity on what you need to do to manage your symptoms, please send me a DM and let me know, because I just want to put out content that is going to help women like yourself make improvements to their health and just feel the absolute best without the overwhelm, without being too overcomplicated, and just keeping things as simple as possible so that we can thrive and just feel our absolute best. Have the best day or evening whenever it is that you're listening to this episode, and I look forward to having you join me in the next one. Thanks for listening to the Well Body podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review or share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can find more support, resources, and information on my website at www.beyondthebody.co. Until next time, I look forward to having you in the next episode.